You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello and welcome to Force 13 Live. We're currently tracking Typhoon Nalgae, the Philippine name of course Paeng, currently at 75 mph winds and a pressure of 980 millibars as it traverses across southern Luzon, according to our latest estimates. What's really striking me at this hour is where on earth is the centre of this thing now? It's really started to look pretty interesting, and signs there that maybe it's doing a little bit of wobbling and spiraling, and perhaps it might just be off the coast of Marinduque right now as far as I can see, but perhaps it's probably a little bit further north of there, which obviously would go with the current forecast. Anyways, pretty severe impacts from this storm so far. We already know that the official word on this now is that there have been 72 fatalities, 67 of which occurring in the very southwestern part of Mindanao, and I think 3 or 2 occurring in either Negros or Panay. I can't remember which one. So quite a few fatalities already occurring further south from flooding and landslides from this storm, and extremely high amounts of rain still possible and likely for many parts of the northern Philippines as well, with up to 500 millimeters possible in some areas, and many locations likely to exceed 200 millimeters. And not just total rainfall, the rain rate at times will be very high, prompting flash flooding and landslides. Serious issues currently occurring in the Philippines right now. To talk us through it, of course, I'm here in the studio once again. My name is Nathan Foy, and presiding over all of our comings and goings during our live stream this morning, as it is, of course, in the Philippines. We have our members from all around the world in different time zones who have joined us today. And with us right now, we have quite a few people. Let's take a look. We've got JV, who has a live feed there from his device, live in Calamba, which is, I believe, in Cavite. We have Christian there, one of our regulars. Farhan on our right-hand side there, another one of our members who generally, I think it's fair to say, takes part more in more of our Asian updates. So it's nice to have you with us. We also have Aidan and we have Marlene with us as well over there stateside and in Canada. So we have our group of people to talk about this storm live as we continue to watch it. Let's switch straight away to some of the infrared imagery and see what we can see right now. Here is a look at the storm's progress, and you can see that it's hard to tell exactly what's been going on there. You follow that big burst and it gets sucked in, and now there's sort of 2 big convective bursts competing around that common center. And it would appear to me that the center of the storm is possibly maybe over southern / western Quezon right now, and will end up moving through Manila fairly soon, later on today, of course. I don't really know what to make of it right now, but let's first talk to Farhan. What's your thoughts on its current appearance?
Well, if you're asking about its appearance, then it's a complete mess. That's the best way to describe it. However, when it comes to a storm like this, appearance doesn't really matter, because as you said, the main threat is going to be from rainfall. There has already been quite a whole lot of it, and judging from the fact that it's not exactly a very fast-moving storm, at least if we compare from where it is yesterday night and where it is now, it's going to cover a lot more, it will drop a whole lot more rain, and if it's continuing at this pace, and I don't usually doom post, but looking at the concerning situation I have here, if the storm continues to take its time here, then the comparison that someone made in last night's live about comparing this storm to Katsana and Famco 2020 probably wouldn't be too much of a stretch, and considering how exceptional those two storms are, that is quite worrying.
Certainly is. JV, you're with us there right now with the camera. What can you tell us on the ground right now? Clearly, it's raining quite a bit and the trees swaying, and we were looking at your feed earlier on. They were really being blown around. Tell us how it is.
Well, the situation here is very different from last time. The winds are getting stronger and the storm is moving closer towards Manila based on the latest 5 a.m. PAGASA cone. I'm still in storm signal number 2, which is 62 to 88 kilometers per hour winds are expected. As you can see in my webcam, the tree is swaying around in all directions. But here's the latest PAGASA information from 5 a.m. bulletin. Severe tropical storm Nalgae is located in the vicinity of Sirumat, Camarines Sur. That's 14 north, 123.3 degrees east. Maximum sustained winds of 95 kilometers an hour near the center, and gustiness up to 160 kilometers an hour. Minimum central pressure of 985 millibars. The storm is moving west-northwest at 30 kilometers an hour.
And a slight change northward in the forecast cone since earlier advisories, taking it just a tad north of Manila again, which is interesting. And I'm not sure what to make of its current position right now. What do you think?
It's kinda different from the position of this storm, like what is saying in the satellite image.
Yeah. Let's take a look at those warnings again as well. There are signal 3 warnings in some areas now, if you didn't know that previously. So let me just read out some of these locations under warnings at this hour. Signal 3 for Camarines Norte, the northern portion of Camarines Sur, and the northern and eastern portions of Quezon, including Polillo Islands. And that is for winds of 89 to 117 kilometers per hour. So that's basically the high end of tropical storm status into the very low part of hurricane typhoon status. So certainly the potential for heavy damage in some areas there, all along that northern coastline. Signal 2 warning still in effect for most of the areas that we were talking about last time. Still for just the very northwestern tip of Samar, the western half, just over half of Masbate, Romblon still there as well, the northern part of Mindoro, and then all of that area through southeastern and southern Luzon, as far north as central Aurora and southern Pangasinan. And Signal 1 warning still extending all the way down to Surigao del Norte in Mindanao and Camiguin, and further towards the north as well, and as far west as Palawan now, the northernmost part of Palawan also under Signal 1. Also extending as far north in Luzon as far as Abra, which to my knowledge wasn't under the warning last night. But that's the latest there. Looking at the warnings from this storm, which our analyst team have down as a Category 1 typhoon, 75 mile per hour winds, pressure 980 millibars. I believe that was inferred based on ground observations. So from what I hear, I think they've got decent confidence of that pressure reading. Christian, any thoughts from your end?
Um, you put me on the spot now.
Oh, well, it was going to come at some point.
At some point, yes. I mean, obviously this it made landfall earlier, but since then has since strengthened to at least what we think is a Category 1 equivalent typhoon. But and I'm not sure what it's going to do next, but obviously some areas are still being impacted by the system, especially with signal 3 warnings in effect for certain areas.
All right.
Obviously, this system is not quite done yet.
Now I'm told that there's new advisories out, so let's see if we can compare and contrast here. This is the 5 a.m. bulletin, and by pressing a button, hopefully it will change to the 8 a.m. one. Let's see how it's changed. Here it comes. Nope, that's still the 5 a.m. one. Okay then. Well, I guess that one's not working yet. Let's see if the warnings have changed at all. I thought that was going to work. It will eventually. It's just not quite reached our servers yet. I don't know. The internet's a strange old thing. But apparently the Signal 3 warnings have been extended. As soon as we know new information, we'll let you know. But right now, I am not currently in full receipt of that information just yet. But we can talk about what we're expecting from the storm still, and we can take a look at our models right now. This is the GFS, the latest run from the 18Z model initialization, and you can still see some very high rain amounts in these areas. So what do all the colors mean? Well, basically red zones and dark orange zones even entering the red there. That's 10 inches, 250 millimeters. For Panay there, we're still looking at possibly 9 inches of rain. In the southeastern part of Luzon, maybe 7 inches there. That's getting towards 200 millimeters. Marinduque there, a little spot of 14 inches there. That's 350 millimeters. But then you get to the elephant in the room, and that's Mindoro. Look at the amount of rain now expected in this area. 24 inches there. That's 600 millimeters of further rainfall occurring from this storm. That's on top of anything that's currently happened. 15 inches as we get closer to Metro Manila there. 15 inches, all just south of there, 14 and 15, over 350 millimeters. In the city itself, getting towards 13 inches. So that's over 300 millimeters, an incredible amount of rain there. 13 inches up there as well, towards Bataan, 12 inches, that's 300 millimeters. Misclicked there, and further north over the mountains up towards 14 inches as well. And quite high amounts in the vicinity there too, 350 millimeters of rain. So a lot going on there, and you can quite clearly see the swathe of the storm afterwards, where the GFS predicts that it will get stronger again. Massive rain swathes out at sea, thankfully, and the GFS still wants it to end up reaching Taiwan and causing really large rainfall amounts up there as well, but that is in the very long range. And we're still thinking that there's a big consensus in the models that are starting to take it that way now. And indeed, it is starting to show in the latest PAGASA cones, which are sort of taking it this way. So, something to watch for very soon. But that is a look at the rainfall right now. Let's switch back to the live webcam feed from our member here, JV, who is joining us from southern Luzon. They are under the Signal 2 warnings, as we heard earlier on, and you can see there that we're still getting quite a bit of wind and persistent rainfall by the looks of things. JV, in your experience looking back at previous storms, have you been impacted by flooding significantly?
There's no flooding recorded here, but I've experienced other storms like Hinta, Ulysses, that's Bamco, Goni, maybe Haiyan, that's in 2013. Of course, we have Ramazan too. I've experienced Ramazan too.
Wow, that feels like so long ago now. So how would you assess the wind speeds in your area right now? You reckon you've seen any storm force winds yet?
Um, I see it through. because the trees swaying around all directions.
All right. Interesting. Keep sending in your comments and questions. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Well, it's the first time I've actually mentioned it, so I don't suppose I can say keep sending them in, but I guess. And we'll be able to take your questions live on the air as we continue to watch this storm and its progress on satellite imagery, as well as all of our other tools that we've got right now to take a look. Here's another infrared view just to show you what those cloud tops were up to in the last few hours. Very interesting, and certainly appears to be an eye that's in the middle of all that, starting to become a little bit clearer. And if I'm right in that suggestion, then that would probably put the very center of the eye very close to Gumaka right now in Quezon. And I guess JV is headed right for you right now, actually. I might pass just a little bit towards the north, maybe. It's hard to tell, but it certainly looks to me on this imagery as though that might be an eye that's becoming more visible. It certainly appears to be where the center of the rotation is, right over the sort of the narrowest point of Quezon as it gets towards the Manila area. Let's see if we've got some questions then. Would Nalgae be a Category 1 typhoon or higher? Well, it currently is a Category 1 typhoon according to our analyst team, who have got their reasons, I think fairly solid reasons to say that much. And our moderator, A Moment of Lovely, who is also in the Manila area, reporting likely tropical storm force winds, strong sustained winds and even higher, and strong rain bands occurring in the NCR right now. Another comment there, I think it's Spooky Spectra or Spectre. Heavy rain here in Rizal area with severe tropical storm winds, I think, and gusty winds. Lots of people talking about their location, and we certainly encourage that. If it's safe to report what the goings-ons are in your area, then please let us know what you're seeing right now. It may help others in some way or other. Viscus says in Dolores, Quezon, they're experiencing tropical storm force winds. So already we're seeing a lot of reports there regarding this storm, which is currently, according to our estimates, 75 miles per hour, which is around 120 kilometers per hour, and a pressure around 980 millibars. That's sustained winds with higher gusts, but even despite this intensification, I would still maintain that rainfall, really heavy rainfall, and the potential for landslides is going to be a massive issue from this storm right now. I don't know if any of our other participants would like to say anything at this juncture, but I'll just leave a little gap of silence for you.
Oh, there's not much to say really, and it's a mess. No, I guess I can comment once again
I think
about
it's a little bit better than a
potential.
mess, though.
Well, it's not pretty, let's just say that.
It's an organised mess. When you look at it, its bands, you take a step back there and look at those bands, it looks quite impressive. Let's start at the top then, and just to remind everyone right now, as far as we know, certainly the official word right now is that there have been 72 fatalities and 14 currently missing, as far as we know right now. So most of those fatalities occurring in one particular area. Let me just remind myself where that was again. I'm pretty sure it was in the southwestern islands off Mindanao where most of those fatalities have actually occurred.
Areas were the first to be affected, so, and considering it's moving out of that area, it makes sense that we are getting reports from there presently.
It's
and
not just
flood
that, to be
going
honest,
northward.
though. It's that those areas tend to be a lot more vulnerable to heavy rainfall as well, it seems. I mean, we've been seeing these kinds of things for years. Like that, they always tend
It's
to
true
be
also.
worse down in Mindanao when they get affected. So yeah, let me just confirm some of these numbers right now. 67 fatalities in BARMM. I know that stands for something, but I don't know what that means. It's off the southwestern part of Mindanao. 3 fatalities in Region 12, which is the very southern part of Mindanao, southwestern, and 2 fatalities in Region 6, which is part of Negros Island and Panay. So that's the extent of fatalities right now, according to the officials. And 14 missing, so serious situation going on down there, and we expect that number is going to be rising, unfortunately. So we've got a pretty serious issue that's ongoing right now. This is Forster Team Live. Feel free to send in your comments and questions live on the air. Rather frustratingly, we still haven't been able to acquire the 8 a.m. update, which people have been saying that have been available to them. This has happened on many occasions in the past where we've been unable to grab the latest update when other people say that they can. And it might be a national kind of thing. People in the Philippines might have access to it first. I don't know.
Well, it would make sense.
It would make sense. Well, let's get some questions here then. There's been quite a few, actually. I'm just trying to find... We're trying not to miss anyone out. Okay. Do we think it could get stronger once it enters the South China Sea? Definitely could. I think it might, the way it's going. Although some models, I mean, it would have to go quite a bit out to sea, obviously, to avoid land interaction with the Philippines. A couple of models still have it close to Luzon on the western coast, which would obviously limit strengthening. But I think it will move out a little bit further, enough for it to re-strengthen. It will probably lose typhoon intensity shortly, and then regain it when it moves over the South China Sea. But I don't see that much strengthening occurring after that. I mean, let's get real, it's quite late in the season. We don't usually see storms intensify very much once they start recurving northwest of Luzon in late October, although there have been 1 or 2 notable exceptions. And let's get a few more questions. Will this storm affect Hong Kong? Well, actually, they've gone from about a 3 or 4% chance of tropical storm force winds to 8% now. So that chance has gone up a little bit. I mean, that's a 1 in 12 chance, basically, that you'll get tropical storm force winds in Hong Kong now. Still unlikely, but that chance has just crept up, just ever so slightly. Will there be impacts on the south coast of China? Now, yes, a couple of areas on the Chinese south coast are up to about 12% chance of tropical storm conditions now. That's a 1 in 8 chance, so the chances are going up. That's all from around less than 5% earlier on last night. Now we're looking at maybe 12%, so interesting how that's changed. I don't actually have the latest graphic. This was what it was last night. Unfortunately, something's wrong with this and it isn't updating. I tell you what, though, let me try and find the other graphic that I was getting the latest information from, because that might be helpful. But this was the old graphic, and it's a different format, so be prepared for that when I show you the new one. Let me just grab it. And here is the new graphic. Still mostly the same colors. Where's the edges of this thing? Shrink it down. Still mostly the same colors, especially on the outer edges, and you can see the dark green outline there. That is the 5% threshold, and then the full green, that's the 10%, and you can see a large part of the Chinese coast there at 10%. And then, of course, you've got the paler green, which is 20%, and you can see just how much it's affecting the Philippines there. This too isn't completely up to date. It's about 6 hours old, but it's the best we've got right now. Tell you what we do have though, and that is, oh well, as that. But first, the model spread as of 12Z, again quite old, but still shows you just how much uncertainty there is about the forecast of this storm. It's quite remarkable. You've got ensemble members going all the way from Ho Chi Minh in southern Vietnam all the way around the coast in the Gulf of Tonkin up towards the coast of China, through Taiwan, through the Japanese southern islands, the Ryukyu Islands, and a few ensembles going all the way to the Ogasawara Islands of Japan, and some of them actually two ensembles there, curving back round again, possibly there. But of course, that's not going to happen. It does look like the model consensus is continuing to shift towards a westward track ultimately. It might veer north at first and then shoot off towards the west as it gets closer to China. But it does look like it will be a westward track in the end. We'll take a proper look at the models a little bit later on, but there's some intensity charts as well. They're not really going for that typhoon force peak, so that's interesting to note. But that secondary peak there, looking to be stronger than the first peak according to most models, even though some of them are completely inaccurate already. But yeah, that's a little picture there into what's going on there with those forecasts right now. Let's go back to the close-up visible imagery here, and you can see possibly the beginnings of that eye. Whether it is or not, still a question needing to be answered. Quite difficult to get a grip on where the center of the rotation is. It looks to me as though it's in central western Quezon already at this point. But certainly a lot of cloud cover over the entire area and likely lots of rainfall. Tropical Storm Alton Ebron says, does the GFS say that Nalgae would rapidly expand or weaken with the nearby front? Well, both. It will expand and then weaken and then contract as it weakens. So that's basically what's going to happen. We'll take a look at that properly soon. And let's just try and find a few more here. A Moment of Lovely, our moderator in the chat, says, I was seeking shelter and the water was rising. Fortunate that they found a taxi driver who brought them home in the Garden Valley of South Manila. Saw lots of people trying to get on their home or get home. So apparently a lot of rain currently at the moment. And certainly the potential for flooding, urban flooding, as well as anywhere else really. The potential for landslides, and of course from what we've heard last night's stream indeed, of the potential volcanic areas that could get mixed up with all the sludge there and really complicate issues around the Mayon volcano particularly. They are concerned right now. I'll open up the floor once again to our team here whilst we see if I can get some new graphics. Still no deal on my screen, unfortunately.
It's interesting how we see the progress of the model consensus. There's not as many ensemble members that's trending towards Taiwan and Japan now. Most have shifted towards the South China Sea, towards Hainan, southern China, and even northern Vietnam. So it does seem like the consensus are looking towards that direction. Although considering the state of the storm right now, anything could still happen. And as you could say, if that possibility end up verifying, then the storm would have a much better chance of re-intensifying as opposed to the more towards Taiwan solution, where keep it pretty close to Luzon and so quite limiting its ability to continue to intensify.
Let's look at those latest models then, and this is the GFS scenario from the 18Z model run, the latest, which concluded only about an hour ago. And you can see there, off it goes, out over the water quite clearly, to the extent where it's only barely tropical storm force winds in the Philippines when it is that rapid intensification? It's quite some intensification, down to 951 millibars there. That's quite a powerful typhoon there, at least category 2. And then northwards, and you can see it's still hanging about, and ultimately it stalls before it gets to Taiwan now, and then hooks back and it gets lost and it dies off. It runs out of time there to do anything else. So that's now becoming a possibility that the storm may not make another landfall after the Philippines, but would still deliver a lot of rain to Taiwan in that scenario. What do the other models say? The ECMWF, this was from 12Z, and a similar forecast there. Intensification not as much as the GFS planned, but there it is continuing northwestwards, and it still survives on the northern coast of Hainan and down the Lisu Peninsula in China, and continuing as a depression into the Gulf of Tonkin. And look what happens to that second system, eventually pulling up through the Visayas region of the Philippines, so it could be a 1-2, and possibly that second cyclone impact. Let me just see if there's Go ahead.
Yeah, there's been quite a lot of rumbles about that second system. Currently, GWC hasn't updated their TCFA. It's still from last night, so whether or not it's intensified into a storm since then or not is unknown. It's not yet recognized as a developing system as far as I'm aware by the GMA. I believe PAGASA has it as an LPA, but yeah, it seems like it's according to the ECWF, it is like that it's going to be another storm. However, whether that would verify is pending time to see how it will develop.
Here's the CMC, a tight loop-the-loop there off the northwestern tip of Luzon, and in this instance it survives and remains at least a tropical depression there all the way through. Look what's happening with these tracks there, and that second storm ending
Whoa!
up moving
What
into
kind of track is
Oh
Luzon.
that?
my god, what the?
That's a bit of a
What
mad
the
track,
heck?
isn't it?
Imagine that!
I mean, it doesn't hit any land areas, but that is a pretty mad track. And then that second storm moving into, again, Aurora province by the looks of it there in Luzon. That's the CMC. What about the Icon model? And the Icon is also going west now as well. It was very unsure at the last update, but definitely going west there on that forecast now as well. So really, it is only the GFS that's digging its heels in at a more easterly track, but even that is not very far east anymore, and it looks to me as though the storm will not exit the South China Sea, that's for sure now, surely. That wasn't fully confirmed last night. So that's interesting. Let's see if we can check the HWRF model. And what does it have up its sleeve? Well, a general track there. It doesn't really know what it wants to do. And eventually there it does move westwards again, right at the end of that loop. And it does consolidate there. When you see how broad it is when it first leaves the coast, and then it really wraps itself together nicely. That would be unexpected up there. I mean, it's marginal conditions when you get towards Taiwan. Interesting. Really shrinks in size and gets a little bit more powerful. So that's the HWRF model. So if the TLDR there, basically it looks like the consensus is starting to form on a further west track now after passing through the Philippines. Let's see if we've got any more comments and questions right now. You can send them in live. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. A comment there: will Typhoon Paeng make a direct hit in Manila? I think that's still a distinct possibility. Right now, I think it might just pass slightly south. A comment there that it's gloomy in Cebu. I imagine it certainly is. And I think that's most of the questions right now. And oh, there's another comment there. Where's its position right now, and does it move further south than expected? It's a really tough one to get a handle on right now. Let's go back to the infrared and see if there's any new clues. It's just that I keep looking at this infrared imagery particularly, which suggests to me that the center of the storm and possibly the eye there is starting to become a little bit more visible, and certainly where that rotation is circling around looks to be the narrowest part of Luzon there, near a location. What was that location called in that area? Gumaka. Not far from there, to the southwest a little bit, over Tayabas Bay actually. It looks like the eye of the storm is there the more you look at that imagery. I don't know if you guys agree with that, if you're watching. But it certainly looks to me as though that might be the eye, and that it would be heading straight towards Lucena, and eventually towards probably Calamba, which is where JV is right now with his view. Let's go back to his webcam, and you can see there the rain pouring, and still it's very hard to gauge how strong the winds might be there, but you're certainly seeing the action with the trees.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan, I'm losing power right now.
Oh. And lots of people reporting this, of course, as well underneath this storm, so power losses. Anything else you can tell us right now at your place?
I might lose power.
Yep.
I might lose power or internet connection due to strong winds. Might lose this time. Oh God.
We'll stick with him as long as we can.
It's already cutting in and out, so it's already on the verge, it seems.
So that's what we can still see in Calamba right now. And we appreciate JV offering his view on the storm right now. They're under a signal 2 warning at the moment, as far as we know. I still don't have the updated info from PAGASA at my end, which is pretty odd, considering that other people said that they had it like half an hour ago. So I don't know what to tell you about that. I'm just taking a look at trying to stay on top of all of my messages right now. And yeah, thanks for sending this in. A Moment of Lovely, our moderator, a heavy rainfall warning. I can't show it on the screen, but heavy rainfall warning, be alert, Quezon, Laguna, Rizal, and Batangas. The more I look at...
just go on. Oh, go ahead when you say.
Just as I look at that graphic, I'm still trying to figure out what province Calamba is in. Is it in Cavite or Laguna? I'm sure someone will tell me.
That's Calamba, Laguna.
Ah, alright. I kept saying it wrong then. You're still in Laguna on the western side of that province. Yep, so that's the current view there right now. Obviously a lot of rainfall currently ongoing. And we are expecting very large amounts of rain in major parts of the Philippines here. particularly in Mindoro, which at the moment is suggesting possibly 500 millimeters of rain from this storm, still yet to come. That's on top of what we've already seen so far during this storm, so pretty serious right now. Heinz says the wind is getting stronger in Manila, and a comment, did a typhoon in history hit the same area in the Philippines as Typhoon Nalgae now? Oh, I'm pretty sure there's been plenty.
Lots.
Yep.
There have been plenty. Considering how frequently storms track towards the Philippines, I'm sure there's been plenty that have tracked a very similar track.
The Philippines rightly has the title of typhoon capital of the world, and indeed tropical cyclone capital of the world, actually. It is pretty insane the amount of storms that occur near the coast. The hotspot of the entire Western Pacific Basin is a couple hundred miles off the coast of the eastern coast of central Luzon. Forest,
Capital, and for the people of Vietnam, Typhoon Shield. Because
yes.
usually when typhoon went to the Philippines, by the time it reached Vietnam, it's already weakened. No, not always.
Forest says Abra is very gloomy, and I think it's going to start raining later. And right now, the strong winds is the problem for me because of the monsoon and typhoon as well. So, thanks for that comment. Signal 1 warning in Abra right now, and certainly in your area there could be significant rainfall. Potentially, it's quite a big if at the moment, but you could see up to 350 millimeters of rain, particularly in elevated areas. So that's the live view at Calamba Laguna right now, which is apparently hanging on to power for a little bit longer. Who knows how long that will happen. That will stay that way. A few more comments. How does it intensify into a category 1 when we said it wouldn't happen last night? I don't think we said categorically that it wouldn't happen. I was starting to seriously
Unlikely,
doubt
that's
it.
what we said.
We're starting to seriously doubt it.
We never say never. Yeah, we never say never.
Storms can do this, and this one did. I mean, I guess what was the kind of the moment. It's hard to suggest how strong storms are on satellite alone, but we got
apparently, Nathan, Metro
We got a new
Manila is now
information
under
right
Signal
now.
3. Apparently, Metro Manila is
Yep.
on Signal 3 now.
Yep, I suppose what I said. I suppose.
Okay. So that's what we've just heard from our.
Maybe I'm in signal number 3 too.
Oh, I see. Yeah, possibly. If we can get any of the new graphics up, we will bring them to you live on the air here. But that's what we're hearing right now. That Signal 3 warnings have been extended. I don't have any graphical proof of that just yet, though.
It's now over the coastal waters of Catanao and Quezon. That's 13.6 north, 122.3 degrees east.
Alright, slow down. Say that again.
Over the coastal waters of Catanao and Quezon. 13.6 north, 122.3 degrees east.
Right, yes. Yes, not very far from where I placed it on my estimate as well. Yes. So that definitely is a significant southward deviation. In fact, it's only just on the edge of the last PAGASA cone where the current position of the storm is right now. That's really fascinating. Unfortunately, I still can't show any latest graphics, but we'll keep trying. You're looking at the latest infrared imagery of the storm pretty much live right now, and keep sending in your comments and questions, and we'll be able to take them on the air. So far, this storm has caused 72 fatalities, most of them in Mindanao, and 14 missing at this time. There have been over 7,000 preemptive evacuations, 33 injured, and currently 121 houses destroyed so far from the storm, and 171 damaged. Those numbers are sure to rise as time goes on. I'm surprised we even got numbers so early on, to be honest, considering that this storm is currently ongoing.
Majority of the reported fatalities is from one area. That is basically from a landslide, and I think the officials are just sort of counting how many people was in that area before the landslide occurred. So in terms of the majority, I think that's the reason we know, because it's from one concentrated area.
Yeah. Let's look at those cloud tops again, and you can see those two major areas of cloud bursts, and just in those late images, once again, you can see that eye trying to appear. I tell you what though, if that is actually happening, dare we suggest that this storm is still intensifying as it continues across southern Luzon?
Not entirely out of the question.
It's a very
It's
odd
the
one,
land
right?
area. The land, there's not exactly much land. There's quite a lot of water with dotted pieces of land, as is typical for the Philippines. So
Yeah.
we've seen storms that intensify in the waters between this spotted pieces of land throughout the
Not here
Philippines. It
though.
has happened.
A little bit further south, of course, you had Mindoro, and it was doing all kinds of
Okay, we
stuff.
got a new cone here. We got a new cone, PAGASA cone.
Has it updated finally?
Hopefully it's updated on my screen. Let's see if we got it. Oh, we do. We do have a new cone. Thanks for the heads up there. And there is the latest cone. Look at how much that storm's bent since the last PAGASA update. Like I said, on the very edge of that cone. And there is the new cone, and PAGASA really committing now to that westward track later on in that forecast as we get towards Wednesday, Thursday. But in the meantime, severe tropical storm, they still have it. That's the 8 p.m. update. And from this point onwards, pretty much takes the storm directly over Metro Manila. And that they have that down as 5
Oh no.
p.m.
The rains are now getting stronger right now, as you can see in the webcam.
Let's have a look. There it is. Clearly an increase in the rainfall there. And we've got the new signal warnings as well. Let's take a look at this right now. There is the latest signal warnings. So your place, JV, you are signal 3 warning now as well. So signal 3 warnings for part of Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, all of Quezon, Polillo Islands, Rizal, Laguna, Cavite, Pampanga, and Metro Manila. Signal 3 for all of these areas now. Signal 2 warning extended to cover all of Mindoro, and is starting to draw away from the eastern Visayas and the southeastern tip, also Sorsogon province mainly. Some of it has exited signal 2 at this point. So these are the latest graphics, and a slight extension at signal 1 a little bit further down Palawan Island as well, just a little bit further. Mindanao no longer under any warnings, which is good news, but still pretty much the entire Visayas under warning, still signal 1 for most of them. That's the latest. Signal 3 warnings, that's the breaking news right now. And this storm, I speculate that it may still be intensifying if that's an eye that's appearing on the imagery, which I think it is.
Is it me, or was it making landfall on that island, Miniduke or something?
Marinduque, it's hard to get a grasp on the exact center of this storm right now, but I think it is just offshore
Well,
to the northeast.
here comes the tropical cyclone bulletin number 16. Same intensity, same gustiness.
Mm.
Why?
Yeah, interesting. I'm not really surprised that they've kept it the same, but I do think it's stronger than what they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if there's some more comments right now. Please send your comments in live and we'll be able to answer any questions or just read out your observations as they happen. What are the chances this storm could recurve out to sea? I'm not sure how it can do that from this point, if we're being honest. If you mean shoot through the Luzon Strait and out over the open Western Pacific, I think that is now out of the question. And some of you wanting to look back at some of the rainfall as well. Well, let me show you these rainfall estimates. This is from the latest GFS model suggesting very high amounts of rainfall in some of these areas. For Panay, possibly 9 inches of further rainfall here. That's over 200 millimeters of rain. For the southeastern part of Luzon there, around 7 inches. For Albay and Sorsogon provinces, possibly 5 or 6 inches, 150 millimeters. For Marinduque, there could still be an area there that gets over 13 inches of rain. That's nearly 350 millimeters of rain there. And then look at this, the real outlier, 24 inches possible in northern Mindoro. Look at that. Over the, even along the coastline, maybe 18 inches. That's between around 450 and 600 millimeters of rain for those areas there. Really quite staggering amounts. Take a look down the southern part of Luzon, places like Laguna, which of course is where JV is. You could be in for 14 inches of rain there, 350 millimeters. Towards Batangas, around 14 inches there as well. Further towards the west there, 14 as well, but potentially up to 16 inches towards Lucena. That is once again 400 millimeters of rain. Over Metro Manila, pushing 13 inches there. That's over 300 millimeters, and towards the northeast as well, over 13 inches too. Looking further west, we could be looking at 11, maybe 12 inches of rain there. That's 300 millimeters once again. And over the mountains in northern Luzon, again, similar amounts of rain between, what's that, 300 and maybe towards 350 towards 400 millimeters of rain in some areas over the mountains. And on the east coast there, around Aurora, Isabela, and up towards Cagayan, 10 inches still possible in those areas too. That's 250 millimeters of further rainfall on top of what's already currently occurring. So pretty frightening numbers when you know this area and how susceptible some places are to flooding. To see that amount of rainfall, it's a major issue wherever you put that on the planet, basically. Let's get some more questions. Thoughts on the Western Pacific season so far, team?
The Philippines has been quite typical, but as a whole, it's it's not exactly very busy. There is one throughout late September where there's quite a lot of activity, but then it sort of just peters out from then on out to now. But I don't know, maybe in November still have one or two more surprises. It often conjures up one of those every year. Will that be the case this year or not? We shall see.
Now, if you remember way back to early on in this season, and when I released my seasonal predictions, we were expecting massive backloaded season ending stuff going on, like off the charts activity in October, November. I don't think it's been off the charts, but we are seeing activity.
It is activity nonetheless. Yes, it may not be as off the charts as you initially predicted, but still can't be ruled out. We're still not quite through November yet.
We're not quite through October yet.
Well, you
Like,
get
there's
what
still
you
2
get what I
days.
mean. There's still time, and anything can happen. That's my point.
Checking back this visible imagery again, it's becoming more and more apparent to me that that is an eye appearing on visible imagery there. Very interesting to watch. Could Nalgae intensify even more? I don't think we can rule it out at this point. And another comment, is it more confident for the storm to turn left 200 kilometers south of Hong Kong? I think so. Most of the models are going with that. I think it will stay quite far away from Hong Kong. And I didn't really understand that last question though. But here is the latest visible imagery as we watch this storm continuing to churn as it moves westwards. Let's bring you back to that latest PAGASA cone. This is what they released just a few moments ago, the 8 a.m. Bulletin, quite late. I guess they're having to think quite a bit about where to put the center of the storm and what the forecast would be now. But there it is. And they placed this storm just to the northeast of Marinduque at the 8 a.m. advisory. If it continues in that...
There is news. It seems like landfall has been declared in Buena Vista, Quezon.
Where's that? Oh, that was beforehand. Yeah, that's on the... Yeah, that's on the eastern side of that peninsula that separates... That's east of Marinduque. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Landfall at Buena Vista in eastern Quezon.
That's number 2.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly where that storm is depicted there on that image. And that's a 5 a.m. position, don't forget, on that initial storm icon. And they're expecting the storm to move through Manila at around 5 p.m. or a little bit after that. I'm not sure it's going to be that long or not. Of course, it's hard to tell the movement of this storm right now, though. And just a reminder of the latest signal warnings. If you've just joined us, Signal 3 warnings have been extended for quite a few areas. Quite hard to see on this map, so let's zoom in quite a bit towards the areas affected. And those Signal 3 warnings marked in orange for quite a chunk there in terms of area and, of course, in population, with Metro Manila inside Signal 3, as well as Laguna, where JV is with his webcam right now. A live view in Calamba, looking at more heavy rainfall. Just looking at those trees swaying, not as much as they were earlier. How's the power situation there? I'm not sure if you might be tuned in or out with our conversation at the moment. I guess not. I'm sure he's quite busy doing many other things during this storm. But if you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air, stay tuned and send your messages in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. I think we will push on for another hour of coverage here. I think it's quite necessary. And another comment here from Carver. Is this larger than Malacca and or Hinamnor? Ooh. I'm pretty sure it's larger than Hinamnor. Because Hinamnor was small.
Hinamnor wasn't exactly particularly big, no.
I don't know about Malacca, though. And throw it back to this imagery whilst we answer a question about cloud tops. What are the cloud top temperatures? You can see these yellows near the center of the storm right now. Those yellows correspond to minus 80-degree cloud tops there. That's pretty damn cold. And if you see any white areas, there's some at the beginning of that loop. I'm not sure if there's any left at the end. Those are minus 90-degree cloud tops, very powerful. And that usually correlates to a lot of moisture within those clouds, of course, forcing the clouds upwards with more and more precipitation. And that usually means more rainfall, to the point where we sometimes estimate satellite estimated rain rates that are derived from cloud tops quite often as well. Usually when you get minus 80-degree cloud tops over the area, that corresponds to around 40 millimeters per hour of rain. A lot of that at the moment appears to be over water, those cloud bursts right now. Some of it passed over Manila not long ago, but currently those clouds aren't quite as heavy. But I'm sure it will swirl right back around to those areas again later on today. More questions here. What is the gustiness of the storm? I assume PAGASA are still sticking with 160 kilometers per hour of gusts. I guess that's a fair estimate. And another comment, Nalgae is a very huge system. Is this the type of are these types of storms more common in recent years? I don't know if you got anything to say about that, Farhan.
If you really zoomed in for the last few years, and I suppose you could say that there has been a lot of big, not pretty looking storms, but really, I don't believe there's anything really to say about it becoming more common. These storms have always existed throughout the history of the Western Pacific and will continue to exist throughout the history of the Western Pacific. It's just that in previous years, like people usually only focus on the big pinhole ice storm, like
I
hey,
think we've been seeing
oh, hold
less
on.
big broad storms
Jace,
actually.
JC's webcam just went out. It's green now.
Oh
Ooh.
no.
Oh, it's back again. A bit of interference there, so we could see this power situation is not exactly looking good over there.
Huh. But onto that question again. I mean, just from my perception, it feels like the amount of large storms is actually decreasing, or has decreased. But I guess these things come in phases, and if there are any trends or any correlations, I mean, we always seek out whether there's correlations in these things, and maybe either we haven't found any correlation yet, or it just doesn't work that way.
Personally think that it's less about actual intensity and more that people are just focusing of because today people are more connected and more able to get this kind of information than ever. In the 80s or 90s, people only rely on TVs and radios. But nowadays, not many people even tune into TV and radio nowadays. So,
Looks like
and so
some pretty decent gusts going on there in Calamba right now. Saw those trees in the distance really being blown about now on this latest camera, and it's a bit glitchy, so I imagine the power situation isn't great, but that's what we're looking at right now. This is Force 13 Live. It's just gone 1 a.m. UTC, which is 9 a.m. in the Philippines. I always get confused with the time zones, and the reason why is because of daylight savings. And actually, here in the UK, which is where my base is, we actually go back tomorrow. And in my earlier days, tracking typhoons such as Haiyan and Hagapit and all of those over those years, they were all very late season storms, so I was always tracking them
indeed,
after the daylight savings time had ended. So I always think that the Philippines is 8 hours ahead, when actually at the moment it's 7 hours for another day. That really confuses me.
There is quite a history of late season storm if you look at over the past decade, and it is uh, approaching the 9-year anniversary of Haiyan. Uh, if anyone wants a bit of trivia there, it's November 6th, November 7th, November 8th. Yeah, it's getting close to 9th anniversary of Haiyan in specific.
And 10
Yeah, our
years since
daylight
Bopa.
saving times ends November 6th, but I don't change my clock. I'm weird.
Well, I don't know if it is weird, but I mean, people in the tropics don't really have daylight savings time.
No, we don't. We don't have it.
Anyway, enough of that conversation. Let's get some more questions if we have any from our viewers right now. A Moment of Lovely keeping keeping us updated at their place. It's extremely loud outside. The winds are blowing through the streets, and it feels like it's getting stronger. Yeah. And apparently they're suggesting a gust of 123 kilometers per hour in Taguig, Metro Manila. I don't know about the validity of that, but that's what they've told us. That would be quite a gust. It's at least 80 miles per hour. So pretty serious what's going on there right now. Signal 3 warnings in effect for Metro Manila and points east of there through Laguna and through Quezon. And looks like we've, for the moment, lost the webcam from JV right now, so I don't know if that might be it for his power situation, but we certainly got the gist of what we were seeing. We were seeing some very strong wind gusts before we lost the feed, so I imagine it's a matter of time for a lot of these locations. If you've just joined us this morning, the unfortunate information is that the death toll already up to 72. 60, I think 70 of those actually occurring in Mindanao, and 2 of them in Region 6, which is either Negros Island or Panay. And there are currently 14 missing. That's the latest information that we've
Be
got.
outside right now.
You're outside?
Yeah.
Oh, JV's got a new viewpoint. Okay, well, let's roll with it. This is the view once again in Calamba from an elevated position. And of course, we appreciate you once again showing us your current conditions. The clouds moving quite quickly there from right to left. So you've certainly got those upper level winds down on the ground. Looking a little bit calmer now, I think. At least for a brief period. Of course, you will get times of windy periods and a little bit calmer periods between bands of this storm as it pushes through. Unfortunate that Philippine radar isn't the best. We would show you a lot more of that if it was, but we're mainly sticking to satellites. Let's see if we can get some more comments here. A few messages of appreciation as well, which we appreciate. We do what we can here from our perspectives. It's not always easy figuring out just exactly what's going on the ground from all this distance away, but at least we have all of our cyclone know-how and experience of covering these storms for 10 years as a project now here at Force 13. Let's get some more comments. How about 94W? Of course, a TCFA, Tropical Cyclone Formation Alert, was issued for that one.
Hasn't been updated yet, so there's GWC. There's no update on that, and the GMA and PAGASA has not exactly made much of a statement about it, so it's only GTWC and there's nothing new from them. So at the point, there's not exactly anything new to say about it.
Interesting. A severe tropical storm according to PAGASA and the JMA, this storm right now, Nalgae is its international name, Paeng, of course, being the Philippine name. Our analyst team going with Typhoon, 75 mile per hour winds and a pressure of 980 millibars, which is the very bottom end of the Typhoon scale. And more comments here. Could it become a Category 3? What are the chances of tropical storm force winds around the coast of China and Luzon? I don't think it will become a Category 3, but the GFS certainly has it intensifying quite a bit. It could get to Category 2 in the South China Sea and give Luzon tropical storm force winds. If it stays too close to the western coast of Luzon after it leaves the Philippines, of course, it will not get as strong due to the land hindering it. And let's see what else we have right now. Could Nalgae hit southern Luzon and Metro Manila? Well, it's already over southern Luzon right now, and Metro Manila under Signal 3 warnings. Now, JV, unfortunately that did not work at our end. We're still looking at your landscape in portrait, I'm afraid. But you get the general idea about what's going on there. A few strong wind gusts that we've seen there in the last few minutes.
Someone just commented that apparently GMA has Mark 94W, but I cannot see it on their website, so I'm not sure where that information came from.
They don't show them on their website, but they show it somewhere else. And I always forget where.
Well, where is that? I have no clue.
I always forget where. I usually have other people searching out all of that information for me. I'm just looking at the latest satellite imagery, and I am actually getting a good read on where the center is right now. As far as I can tell, at this very moment, according to, well, not this very moment, but the latest that we've got from RapidScan, which was at 52 minutes past the last hour, so 20 minutes ago, this storm was located, the center of the storm, 6 kilometers off the eastern coast of Marinduque, and that is 13 kilometers from Santa Cruz. And so I think it's going to pass just east, and if we were to draw a line, it would still move west-northwestwards. I would say right now that the most likely track of the storm will probably take it somewhere close to Calamba, which is where we're looking at right now on the webcam. Although I am thinking if it does continue that west-northwestward movement, it might actually pass over Taal Lake instead. But it's going to be a close call to see where exactly this storm ends up, at least the center of it. Regardless, rainfall amounts are going to be pretty insane from this storm. Mindoro particularly, the GFS suggesting that up to 25 inches of rain could fall over that area. That is over 600 millimeters of rain, and for a large part of the capital region, we could be looking at 15 inches of rain, or at least 10. That's 300, 400 millimeters possibly in some of these areas. More comments here, quite a few. Could Nalgae cause flooding worse than Ondoy? I don't.
What's
really...
Ondoy International?
That was.
Which one is that?
Was that Ketsana in 2009? Of course, one that's very well remembered.
2009.
Yep. So that was
right.
a really massive flooding problem from that storm. I'm not sure. I don't know how much rain that storm produced, but I can tell you it is going to be pretty
In the thousands. That's one thing I remember.
Of millimeters?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
It was very
Really?
exceptional. A very exceptional storm, as I said.
Gee. Any possible lightning in the storm? Fortunately, we don't really get to see lightning in these Western Pacific storms. And power outages reported in BGC, according to A Moment of Lovely.
There are also pictures about power lines being done in Iloilo City. So yeah, quite a lot of widespread power cut and damages being reported this morning.
Let's go and take a look at some of the content that A Moment of Lovely sent me. And I know you heard that. That was quite loud. Sorry about that. But I'm just trying to bring this to our screen here. Does this work? Ah, there we are. This is a view right now from A Moment of Lovely. Thanks for sending this in. And there we go, with a little bit of audio. You can hear exactly what the scene is there at this moment, or in a very recent few minutes. And
Wait,
certainly a
is
lot
that
of
from the gig?
What's that?
That location is the gig, that webcam?
I don't know where exactly. I'm sure it's in the Manila area somewhere.
Oh.
But thanks for sending that in. If you've just joined us, Typhoon Nalgae, winds of 75 miles per hour, Philippine name Paeng, of course. And this storm is continuing to plough through central southern Luzon. It's quite a powerful storm, signal 3 warnings in effect, but flooding and landslides are going to be the primary threat from this storm, with potentially 500 millimeters of rain possible in some of these areas. That view that we were looking at just then was from the Manila area. So pretty serious how that was running there. Back to our other view from our member JV right now, showing us the live look outside your place in Calamba, also under signal 3. And you can once again see that you've got winds blowing at times on those trees, and that's going to get quite a bit worse over the course of the day. One thing that is a good thing about this storm, I suppose, is that it is striking the populated areas during the day. So I guess it's, I mean, I don't know if there is a direct correlation, but you just sort of assume there must be, that more fatalities at night during these typhoons than during the day.
Well, it depends on the kind of storm. If it's a storm where the main threat are flooding like it is, then I suppose being on the day, striking during the day is better because people are more likely to be alert and be able to notice when the water's rising, as opposed to a wind typhoons, like for example Haiyan. Like, to be honest, when there's footage from the various storm chaser that was on the ground in Tacloban, who said that it's good that it's striking during the daytime, during the morning. But to be honest, considering the most danger about the Haiyan was the wind and the storm surge, I don't think it would really make much of a difference if it's during the day or during the night, because those kind of dangers, it just happen. You can't really anticipate it. If it happens, it happens. You can't exactly prepare for it, as opposed to rain and flooding, which is relatively more gradual, so you could more prepare for it in the moment.
Let's go back to our latest satellite imagery and let's take a look at some of the infrared enhancements and see how we're going with that eye feature. Just make sure we've got the very latest up-to-date view here, and you can quite clearly see where the bands are gyrating around at this point. The storm center is extremely close to the island of Marinduque, just off the coast there, and it looks like it's just passing to the north. The storm's motion continues to be west-northwestwards, and once again you've got those bands either side. Convection waning a little bit in those last few frames, but I imagine a new burst is about to begin. I think this is solidly a Category 1 typhoon as we look at it here.
Well, I'm under yellow rainfall warning right now.
That's right, that was issued earlier on. Just to remind us all, what does that actually mean?
Flooding is possible in low-lying areas and near river channels.
Interesting.
The orange is flooding is threatening in low-lying areas and near river channels, and the red is severe flooding is expected. Take necessary precautionary measures.
Now, your area, have you had a, in terms of how much rain you've received, say, this year, are you in a dry spell, or is this a real issue?
Mm, maybe a real issue about that because rain is expected a lot for me.
Yep. I mean, certainly your area expecting probably at least 300 millimeters of rain there. So there we are. That's a wider shot of the storm, and we can take a look at the fully zoomed out view, and you can see it there, and you can even see the eye on this far out imagery as well. The storm's influence still pretty large there, and that banding continuing. I wonder how much what the satellite estimates are getting on this storm right now, if they're doing it, because of course they don't do it when the storm's over land. But let's have a little look. ADT is currently at a surprisingly low 3.7 or 3.5, only about 65-70 miles per hour. That's on the Sims ADT. Let's just have a look at NOAA's. You can't see any of this, I'm just going through these on my other monitor. NOAA ADT is also running at 59 knots, so I was a little bit surprised at how low that is. I would have thought that satellite Dvorak would have caught up to calling this a typhoon. But I guess we have those differences. Once again, if you've got comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air, we're here for the rest of the hour. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. If you've got any observations on the ground, much like the webcam that we've been watching from JV, then also do let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods. It may be useful for other people who are viewing.
Comment that scroll away while you were doing the calculation of southern estimate is someone wondering, how is the southern hemisphere? The season is about to, well, officially quote unquote start there in the southern hemisphere, and well, what I can tell you is that Meteo France, which is the agency responsible for the Southwest Indian Ocean, has marked an area at the edge of their area responsibility of possible development of a system that is currently on in the Australian region. They have noted it for a possible development within the next 5 days, but that's about it. And if you know this hemisphere, you know that agencies are kind of reluctant to note and identify and then name storms this early on in their season
Yeah.
if they do develop. So it's something that has to be kept in mind.
Yep, so southern hemisphere, possible storm next week. Shouldn't affect any land areas though. Metro Manila, apparently winds are calming down, according to Gringo Aviation. And in Lucena City, Quezon province, gusty conditions and rain. Caloocan in Manila, pretty strong wind. So that's what we're hearing from various people on our stream right now, and thanks for tuning in and letting us know. Let's run back through the latest update from PAGASA, which came out at 8 a.m. of course, showing the storm position. And let's just remind ourselves of how big that wind field is, by the way. That's was that 30 kilometer per hour wind field, I think it says. I can't quite read it from here. But 22 knots or higher, very large area there under those strong winds. And of course, storm force winds, actually a pretty small red zone. When we look at that image there, I'd imagine it's probably at least must be a little bit bigger than that. And it's moved pretty much due west from that position. That was a 5 a.m. position there to the 8 a.m. or wherever we are at right now. Where the storm is pretty much passing just around the northern side of Marinduque right now and headed towards somewhere between Batangas and Calamba is my best guess. I'm not fully convinced that this center of the storm will pass over Metro Manila anymore. I think it will be a little bit south. And of course, as we keep looking at that, as we keep looking at that cone, it shifts northwards and then starts to turn westward again late on in that cone as it starts to approach Hong Kong, and I think it will move decidedly westwards before it reaches Hong Kong.
As I was about to say that there is news that Manila Airport, has international airport has announced flight cancellations in relation to the approaching Nalgae/Paeng. So it is starting to really affect the Metro Manila area, judging from their perspective. They have listed a bunch of flight cancellations.
Once again, Signal 3 warnings in effect for large chunks of southern Luzon, including Metro Manila and a lot of populated areas nearby. Signal 3 warnings, that denotes strong winds of strong tropical storm strength up to minimal typhoon strength expected in all of these areas with higher gusts. Signal 2 warnings still for large areas there as well, as far north as Pangasinan and as far south as Romblon and part of Masbate still, and the whole island of Mindoro. Signal 1 warnings still extend as far south as Negros Oriental and across part of Palawan and down to southern Leyte. And on the northern side, as far north as Abra and Ilocos Sur and Kalinga and Isabela on the eastern coast. This storm right now estimated to have winds of 75 miles per hour, which is around 120 kilometers per hour sustained, and a pressure of 980 millibars as it sweeps through southern Luzon. Farhan?
Interesting note is that GMA position fix has the center of the storm, according to them, in the Sibuyan Sea, while PAGASA, I believe, still have it over southern Luzon, just making landfall over the southern tip of Luzon. That's quite an interesting discrepancy over where the two agencies think the center is right now.
And it is a tough one to pin down, it is, but I think we are getting closer to the answer. It does definitely look to me as though it is just north of Marinduque right now. As I mentioned before, and we should have some new, an updated position actually. Let's just see if I can get this for us all. First I've got to try and calculate it myself. We had the 8:50, what time is it there now? Yeah, 8:52 a.m. position update had it 6 kilometers northeast of Marinduque, and now at 7 minutes past 9, I'm just trying to just waiting for the imagery to load actually. That would be helpful. And then I can find out exactly where it is. So, just checking that latest imagery, it's passing Marinduque. I wouldn't call it a landfall, and now I would say it is only 5 kilometers northeast of the northern point of the island, and that is 10 kilometers north of Santa Cruz. And it looks to me as though it might have made a landfall on the tiny island there of Maniwaya, and I might have got that wrong on the pronunciation, much like everything else. And that would mean that the track is continuing towards just south of Lucena, I would imagine. Looking back at the latest,
The
at
fourth
this,
landfall.
say again?
That would be the fourth landfall. By the way, Nalgae had 3 landfalls so far. The number one is in Virac Catanduanes at 1:10 in the morning. Number two in Camamoan, Camarines Sur at 1:40 in the morning, and the number three in Buena Vista in Quezon and at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, I don't think they'll count this one as a landfall. I think they'll go for the next one. And once again, the view from your place, JV, still looking interesting. Still blowing about a bit. Not as bad as I saw quite a bit earlier on when you were still downstairs. I haven't seen anything to that level since. But yeah, there we are. Another gust blowing through there. Right then, let's see if we've got some more comments right now, and feel free to chime in on the comments section if you're watching us live on YouTube. Apparently, a Manila weather station reported gusts of 145 kilometers per hour. The Inn Hotel on the side reported the same. Seems to be confirmed as 2 different stations reported the same. That's quite possible. That's quite possible.
Wow.
And sometimes you can get discrepant high gusts from weaker storms too. For instance, the highest, I mean, you would expect that the highest ever gust from a tropical cyclone would be in a Category 5, but it wasn't. It was a Category 4. I think it was it Olivia? Was that the name? I can't remember now. 1996.
Yeah, Olivia in the Australian region, 1996.
And that wind gust was something insane. I can't remember what it was now. Was it like 250 miles per hour or something insane like that?
253, I believe.
Oh my goodness. It's about 400 kilometers per hour. Wind gust. Yikes. But right now we're still, I mean, we're mainly spectating as we continue to watch this storm blow through. Signal 3 conditions likely to occur across this whole region of southern Luzon, extending to Metro Manila as the day wears on. We expect the worst conditions will arrive in Manila probably in the late afternoon, early evening hours, I would expect. And we did have a question to that effect. Yeah, basically the same thing that I just answered actually. So yeah, Manila, I would say around late afternoon, early evening for the worst conditions. John says, does the storm deviate from the original track? I mean, where do you want to start with the original track? I mean, when it was first developing or first on the radar, models were mostly suggesting that it would stay clear of the Philippines and stay east and recurve. Obviously that never happened. The ECMWF was pretty much on board with the Philippine landfall first, and it has consistently been a westward outlier and still is really, but it really looks like it's pretty vindicated on their runs.
Well, if their meaning by original track is from the first PAGASA advisory, which I have up on my screen right now.
Oh, really?
It is deviated quite a bit. we could see that the original track is well, it didn't totally recurve out of the Philippines. It hits the northern tip of Luzon, but yeah, it is quite a huge deviation
Oh
from
no.
how it
Still
was
within the
before.
cone though.
Here
Technically,
comes the
technically.
here comes the rain again. That's quite strong rain.
So another barrage of heavy rain in this location right now in Calamba Laguna with JV, and we've been looking at this area for quite a while. We've seen a few strong gusts and quite windy in general, of course. You can definitely see the strong winds in the upper levels when you watch the clouds pass by, and it's going to get much worse in this location as well as in Manila before it gets better later on this evening. Another question, will it remain to have a large wind field in the South China Sea and go more northwesterly trend to Hainan? One of the models has that. I can't remember which one it was, but the wind field is likely to stay pretty large, but I still think it's going to be more of a northerly track, and then it will shed a lot of that what's left of it, and it could shrink a bit as it moves westward again, and then gradual weakening trend towards Hainan.
Depending on which solutions the storm will take,
Yeah,
Hong Kong will have to watch about it.
quite a few different solutions, of course, and a little bit laggy on that video just then, as we saw some stronger wind gusts. Well, let's take another look at the models then. We showed them last hour, but we know that new people come in all the time. So let's take a look once again at the latest as soon as
Oh
I
my
get
god.
there.
Speaking of over there,
That's the
isn't it,
stronger
JV?
one.
What's that?
That's the stronger wind.
We're watching it right now.
Oh god.
I didn't see what happened. It must have been a gust. But certainly the trees swaying.
That's it. A gust, then
Oh yeah.
strong rain.
Yep, and this will get more and more common as time passes here in Laguna. Let's go back to some of these models then for those who haven't seen yet, and we'll take a comprehensive look at all of the available models. So this of course is the GFS first of all, the 18Z model run. It initialized the storm at 984 millibars, which I think might be on the high side actually, and then it continues through the rest of the area, moves northwest actually at first, moving north of Manila, but the way it's going I don't think that's going to happen. I think it will pass south out over the South China Sea there, and rapid intensification on Sunday into Monday, peaking at 951 millibars there on Monday. That's probably a strong category 2 if the winds catch up, and then continuing northwards and stalling before it manages to get to Taiwan, and really shrinking and
Okay.
dying out as it stalls.
I got an update here on Marikina River right now.
All
It's
right.
now
Yeah,
14 meters.
someone did ask.
It's up 14 meters right now as of 9:30 in the morning. That only 1 meter left until the first alarm.
Oh dear.
Someone did ask about the Murder River earlier, so if you're still here, the one who asked that a while ago, there you go.
That's going to happen soon then. It's going to reach the first alarm. This is the ECMWF model. Once again, taking the storm generally further west and moves northwesterly, really, when we look at that, and gradually shrinks, but stays pretty consistent with its intensity. Intensifies a little bit, then it's a very slow weakening process as it heads towards, well, we don't know exactly where yet on that ECMWF. Only goes out to 90 hours there, that 18Z run. The CMC, let's check this one out again. And you can see there it does that loop-the-loop and turns westwards and then sinks southwards, passing Vietnam, and is still traceable right down. Yep, that's
that
the
is
crazy
an
one.
interesting track. My God.
That's a pretty crazy one.
Boy.
The interesting thing about the CMC, though, it stays closer to the coast of Luzon, and it never really gets back into its full flow again. So it only loses intensity after it leaves the coast. Icon model 18Z here, showing a general movement towards the northwest and then west. There's a period of growth in size for a time, and then round about the time that it gets to about the same latitude as the northern tip of Luzon, that's the point where it starts shrinking again and generally weakening. And just to show you the HWRF once again, looking at the latest here, and you can see there it moves generally northwards and eventually gets its act together again southwest of Taiwan, which would be unlikely, and off it goes westward again. And HMON doesn't have it, so we'll leave it there. That's what the models are showing right now. Let's go back to the live look in Calamba right now, and once again conditions fairly inclement, a bit glitchy now, the video with those strong winds, and I'm sure strain on the resources. If you just want the main news, well, I can tell you right now, so far 72 fatalities confirmed officially. Most of those, 70 of them, being in Mindanao, the other 2 in the Visayas region, and 14 missing. 7,000 were preemptively evacuated, 12,000 displaced, and so far 184,000 people affected. I'm not sure what the definition is about affected there. 33 injured so far from this storm as well, and 292 damaged houses. I'm sure we'll get more information on all of this as time goes by. We're running just for until the end of this hour, so keep your comments and questions flowing in, and I'll get to those in very short order. In fact, we haven't had that many further questions since I last looked, but there has been one. HKO, Hong Kong Observatory, already expecting tropical storm force winds in Highland in Hong Kong. Does that mean an increase in chances of tropical storm force winds in the city? Not at this time. It has increased since last night from around, what was it, 4% or so to 8%. But at the moment, I don't know. We'll wait for the next model runs, I suppose, for more information on that. I imagine the chances are probably rising slightly. I'll just double check to make sure there's not a new graphic out. No.
Well, Hong Kong, the picture for Hong Kong really depends on where it's going over the next 12 to 18 hours. I think by the time it's passing over Metro Manila this evening, early next morning, we'll be able to see where the storm is possibly going in relation to Hong Kong. So at the moment, it's good to take preemptive measures, but the picture is not exactly clear for you if you are in Hong Kong watching the situation of this storm.
Latest position estimate as of 32 minutes past, which is just 12 minutes ago, that this storm, well, there's the RAM page, which I wasn't meant to show you, is the storm center is now only 7 kilometers north of Santa Cruz in Marinduque. And that basically means it hasn't moved in half an hour there, but I'm sure that will change again shortly. And of course, it might just be a fix error that we had earlier on, but that's the latest estimate, 7 kilometers north of Santa Cruz. We're now joined by David Tones. You're on the air. If he's ready for us. Well, I'm sure he will be in a moment. But right now, we can see on the visible imagery the storm continuing westwards and signs of that eye appearing. David, your thoughts?
Hi to the viewers. This is another system that needs close monitoring. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center has some very interesting wording in its current discussion paper. And Nathan, in your satellite imagery, looking at that cloud mass over the country, bifurcation is taking place, and when you look at the deterministic
What's taking place?
Bifurcation, bifurcation remains a factor due to the northeast surge event. A large majority of ensemble solutions show a quasi stationary or slow westward turn towards southern China, while the deterministic moves the system towards the northeast.
Yeah.
So they're saying due to the erratic nature of the model track guidance, the center's forecast track confidence remains low. So it's that word that caught my eyes, and apparently I think it means it's split in two.
I mean, it has had. I mean, the convective bands sort of did that earlier on, but now it's quite clear that those bands are now working together, swirling around that center, and it is tightening up as far as I can see. And I have no reason to believe that this storm is not strengthening. In other words, I think this storm is strengthening right now.
Well, I was picking up on one of the comments from one of our team members that the countryside was a bit flat, so I'm leaning towards it. What you said about intensification or intensifying further.
Once again, going back to the latest view from Calamba right now, and you can see those winds getting up. This is a live view right now with JV on our team here. And once again, thanks for showing us this viewpoint. I'm sure there are plenty of other things that you could, other ways you could be better spending your time, but currently showing this to our stream right now, the current conditions in Calamba. A reminder that Signal 3 warnings are in effect for quite a few areas in southern Luzon, and those areas in question are, so just get the file back up, Western Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, all of Quezon, Palillo Island, Rizal, Laguna, Batangas, Cavite, and Metro Manila. Signal 2 warnings for all of Mindoro and Lubang Island. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention Marinduque, Signal 3. Signal 2 warnings for Mindoro, Lubang Island, Romblon, Western Masbate, Burias Island, Western Sorsogon, Albay, Catanduanes, Eastern Camarines Sur, Bulacan, Southern Aurora, Nueva Ecija, Pangasinan, Zambales, Tarlac, Pampanga, and Bataan. Signal 1 warnings extending southwards across the rest of the Visayas region entirely. The Cuyo Islands, the Calamian Islands, and northern Palawan. Also for the eastern part of Sorsogon as well. and extending northwards as far as Isabella, Kalinga, Abra, and Ilocos Sur. That's the northern extent of those warnings. This storm currently with winds, according to our analyst team, of 75 miles per hour. That's around 120 kilometers per hour sustained winds and a pressure of 980 millibars. According to my latest fixed data from 32 minutes past, it places the storm a mere 7 kilometers north of Santa Cruz on Marinduque. Some other position estimates in relation to other significant locations. 110 kilometers from Batangas right now. 120 kilometers from Calamba, where this webcam is. Well, not webcam. Well, I suppose it is your webcam. 151 from Taguig and 161 from Manila. So 100 miles, that is, from Manila, Metro Manila right now.
Heavy rainfall warning has been raised in Quezon. Orange rainfall warning has been raised in Laguna, Rizal, and Batangas. And yellow, well, I think it's already yellow for quite a while, but Metro Manila, Cavite, and Bulacan has been raised. That's the latest update that's just come out from PAGASA regarding rainfall warning that I've just managed to catch.
Oh,
JV?
it's rainfall warning.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying something.
orange Laguna, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I just saw. Laguna, Rizal, and
Oh,
Batangas is in orange warning, red warning in Quezon, and yellow in Metro Manila, Cavite, and Bulacan.
just like this storm is quite similar to Typhoon Ramasan in 2014.
Interesting comparison. How strong was Ramazan at this point?
150 estimated by PAGASA.
Kilometers?
Yep, 150
Right.
kilometers per hour.
So a high-end category 1. I don't know. It could be a decent comparison.
But Nalgae, Nalgae is an high-end tropical storm or kind of comparison of these two storms.
Cutting in and out both audio and video from his end, it seems, right now.
Yeah, we are struggling just a little bit there. I'm trying. Let's see if we get have some more comments here, and we do. Is it a big size? Oh, sorry. Is a big size storm in late October commonly? Basically, is it common?
Just looking within the last few years, then I suppose you could say yes.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit late for big storms. Usually you would have them a bit earlier. You think about Tip, that was early to mid-October. Yes. It's interesting. Is Typhoon Nalgae bigger than Typhoon Nanmadol? I think so.
Namadol and Hinnenmore, both those storms from earlier this season was, comparatively speaking, it's not the biggest. They're stronger than the both of them, but they're not exactly as big in terms of influence. Though, mind you, Which one was more western? Now I don't remember, but the more western of the two did bring quite a lot of heavy rainfall to Taiwan, to northern Taiwan especially, and depending on where Nalgae is going for the next few days, then it might also be doing the same for southern Taiwan, depending on how it goes. And I suppose if you're in Taiwan, you're preparing for Halloween, that could be a bit of a party pooper. But yeah, I suppose you don't really have to think about that kind of thing, considering the situation at hand with rainfall and stuff.
More questions. When will it get better in Metro Manila? It will be long after dark. It will be late night that it will start to get better there, I would imagine. Has this storm made landfall in Marinduque? I don't think so. I think it came very close, within about 5 kilometers of landfall there, but I don't think it happened. And it looks to me as though it is now starting to move away to the northwest. And Forrest says Abra might not get much rain, but the 7 magnitude earthquake back in July and the 6.4 back in October was October 25th was truly a very rare occurrence and a nightmare for the ones that didn't have a quake. I'm not sure what the end part meant, but
Well,
earthquakes and typhoons, they sort of go hand in hand in this area.
yeah, in this area, you have 3 earthquakes and, to extension to the tsunami at times, typhoons, and volcanoes. That's sort of the 3 constants of natural disaster in this area of the world.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of activity in terms of nature in this area, definitely. But let's not forget that there are some real concerns about those volcanic areas, particularly around the Mayon volcano, where there could be lahars that could occur in that area.
Yeah, people often think that once eruption is over the next few months, then all the materials will be just gone away from the landscape. But in actuality, previously erupted material could stay on the surrounding area of a volcano for quite a while, even decades, and it could be during periods of either heavy wind or heavy rainfall. It could be kicked up again and once again cause trouble to the surrounding area in the form of ashfall and lahars, and the latter is certainly a concern currently for the area surrounding Mayon.
2 similar questions there about whether it will become a Category 2 and whether it will intensify further. I think it will become a Category 2 when it's in the South China Sea, and I do still think it's intensifying right now. There's our proper image here. Let's just look back one more time at the infrared imagery because we are almost out of time here. Taking a look at this latest loop, and that's actually looking less solid about where the actual center is. As far as I can tell, it is just north of Marinduque, but this imagery shows a little bit of am I even looking at the right place? Where am I looking there? It's hard to tell where you are with the outlines sometimes. No, I'm looking at that now. Ooh. That's really hard to tell where the center is now when you look at that image. I'm looking at some other imagery that looks a little bit clearer, but I am doubting myself on that actually. The center could be over Marinduque or near it. I don't know. But either way,
Maybe
it's
I guess
close.
in Lucena in Quezon.
I don't think it's got that far
Maybe
yet.
in Lucena, Quezon, where the point of something.
I don't think it's quite there yet, but it's definitely on its way. But there we have it. I think that's all for now on our coverage tonight, or this morning, of course, local time. We'll have more on this storm throughout its progress through the Philippines on the Force 13 channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll get notified whenever we have new videos out. We do short form videos as well. in video updates, as well as our long live events. And I'm sure we'll have more updates throughout the day in the Philippines, and possibly another live event tonight, local time. We'll see whether that comes to fruition or not. In the meantime, we're finishing up here. Stay safe. It could be a real big issue for flooding. The rainfall extreme in some areas. We're expecting over 300 or 400 millimeters in some populated parts of Luzon. And on Mindoro particularly, GFS really going at it for Mindoro. 25 inches possible there. That's over 600 millimeters. Keep watching it closely. Those flood warnings are issued for a reason. And do all you can to incorporate your preventiveness actions against this storm. Category 1 typhoon, 75 mile per hour winds according to our team. You can also follow us on our social media outlets, Facebook and Twitter, search Force 13. And you can also join our Discord server. Our community is there, discord.gg/Force13. But for now, that's it from us, and we'll see you again soon.